Hello everyone, and welcome to the third part of the budget drift build. In the last two videos, I assembled the Sakura D4 chassis, installed all the electronics, and cut out the ABC Hobby Nissan 180SX body. In this video, I'm going to finish the wiring and test the electronics, as well as paint the body, mount it to the chassis, and do some drifting. Before I painted the body, I wanted to apply liquid mask to the outside to protect from any unwanted overspray. Before I did this, I washed the entire body thoroughly with soap and water to ensure the entire surface is clean. I just applied two really thick coats with a brush and let it dry overnight, and the result is a bit uneven, but will work well for preventing overspray. With all the electronics mounted, all that's left to do is plug in a few wires and confirm that everything is functioning correctly. One thing I noticed right away was that I wired two of the brushless motor wires incorrectly, so I made sure to swap them. I also soldered a Dean's plug on the ESC wires that connect to the battery and plugged in the servo and ESC into the receiver. And finally, I plugged the motor sensor wire into the ESC and motor, and the bullet connectors into the battery. With everything wired correctly, I wanted to do a quick test to make sure everything was functioning correctly. With everything all set on the chassis, I turned my attention back to the body. I wanted to mark all the spots that I wanted painted black and all the spots I wanted masked, like the lights and windows. I wasn't exactly sure where to place the masking stickers for the two rear quarter windows, so I traced the corresponding decal onto some trace paper and used that to help with the alignment. ABC Hobby includes a great selection of masking stickers, and they did a good job at blocking the paint. I also used some vinyl masking tape and Tamiya tape to mask off everything I didn't want painted black. Once all the masking was applied, I sprayed several light coats of Tamiya PS5 black paint. After painting, I removed all of the masking except the window masks. Next, I applied the masking stickers for the lights and taped around the entire edge of the body to prevent overspray from getting on the outside. I sprayed the body with Tamiya red and backed that with white polycarbonate paint. Once the paint dried, I removed all the masking. To be honest, I was pretty disappointed with how this body turned out. The initial masking was a bit sloppy in spots, resulting in some edges that could have been more clean and straight, plus I applied the black a little too thick, which didn't help. On top of that, I applied the red base coat too thin to the point where some of the white backing coat is slightly visible in spots. But most frustrating of all was some of the black paint snuck past the masking on the front that I didn't notice and ended up painting on top of. I initially planned on repainting the body, however these past few weeks have been very busy and I didn't want to take the time to do a repaint. Despite some of these mistakes, I think the body looks pretty cool, and some of these imperfections will become less noticeable once the windows are tinted and the body lines are added. I spent some time brainstorming how I wanted to mount the body to the chassis. I decided to mount the body via magnets along each side under the door as shown. This mount works great, as you'll see a little later on. I might add an additional mount to the front just to make the body even more secure, but just these mounts holding each side keeps the body solidly attached to the chassis. I also designed and printed this piece that will provide a surface for the ESC to mount to. This will keep the ESC out of the way, so I will have ample space for the interior, but as a side effect, this is adding even more weight to the rear. After all the electronics were mounted, I used zip ties to organize the wires and keep them out of the way from moving parts. As you can see, the body mounts to the chassis effortlessly. I will be adjusting the position of the body and the ride height just a little bit, but already I really like how this car looks on this chassis. Also, this current setup allows for plenty of room for an interior from the back of the front seats and forward. I will do my best to hide the electronics visible through the rear windows. One of my plans currently is to use a heavy tint on the rear windows to help make the electronics nearly invisible from the back. However, with all that weight over the rear end, I wanted to take this car for a test drive to see how well it drifts and what changes need to be made before going any further with this build. First thing I want to say is that this car is a blast to drive. I'm not new to RC drifting, but I am new to rear-wheel drive drifting, and I really enjoy the unique driving experience as well as the added challenge and realism that rear-wheel drifting provides. Now, the main objective of this test drive was to see how well this car drifts with all the weight over the rear end. This is where I could use some advice and tips from some of you with more experience. Initially, I transferred the battery to the front of the vehicle to give the car a more even weight distribution. I wanted to experience how the car handled and drifted when the weight is distributed equally over the front and rear wheels. After a while, I relocated the battery back to the rear mount, which is what I'm running here. Initially, I noticed a negative effect on the handling and drifting became more difficult. I messed around with the suspension and tried out some different tires which helped, I also added some lead weights to the front, which had a positive effect on the car's handling, but I feel like there's definitely room for improvement. I will continue to mess around with the car and see what I can do to improve its performance. If any of you who are more knowledgeable about rear-wheel drifting, particularly if you have a vehicle with a lot of weight in the rear, have any tips or suggestions, I would appreciate it if you'd leave them in the comment section. Speaking of that, thank you to everyone who has been commenting on the previous videos in this series. I really appreciate the information, suggestions, and support. Also, I apologize for the lack of videos these past few weeks. I've been very busy and haven't had as much time to work on projects and edit videos. I'm not sure how many uploads I'll be able to get out over the next few weeks, but eventually I would like to get on some kind of schedule with this channel. Of course, you can always follow me at the social media links below in the description for more frequent updates as well as some sneak peeks at future projects. That is all for this video. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.